everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we have our element back on the table. This is our Trailrunner project we've been having a little bit of fun with. But why is it on the table today? Well, from pretty much the moment I took it out of the box, it has had a problem. What is that problem? Let me show you. And here's the problem, is the shocks. Since day one, this shock right here has leaked. As you can tell from the shock here itself, it's covered in grime and dirt that's been attracted to it by the oil. I don't know for sure if this is a cap problem or a body problem, but given the fact that this is a metal bodied shock, I'm going to assume that it's the cap. So therefore, from day one, I've been running this truck with no shock oil in the rears. The rear, I mean, look how bouncy it is. Not good for performance, so what we're going to do is, I'm going to go ahead and take this shock off, get it cleaned up, pop this stock cap off, and fill this up with some oil, and try the new cap out. And this is what we're going to replace those leaking shock caps with. These are the STRC aluminum shock caps in gunmetal. So hopefully this will fix our leaking shock problem. So, like I said, these will look better and hopefully will perform better. And it'll give it a little bit extra strength up top. As cheap as these kind of things are, I don't know why manufacturers still include plastic shock caps and bodies. But anyway, like I said, you can get these. Here's the part number for them. STC 42080. This one has a GM on the back for gunmetal, and they come in other colors too. I know for sure they come in silver and black and probably other colors. Anyway, STRC is known for making good parts for the axial vehicles, so let's see how these do on the element. So let's go ahead and get the shock off. It's really easy to do. You've got one bolt up top right here, and you have another one right here. The good thing is about this bolt right here, you don't even have to take the tire off to remove it. You can get to the bolt by going through the tire. So I can get the slime. See right there, you can see the bolt through that hole in the tire, in the rim. So you can go through the rim to get that lower mount off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll go through changing the caps. Start by taking off the top screw right here. And now for the bottom bolt. So we'll just go through the tire here. There we go. Now that shock is out, I'm going to take this shock and clean it up. First thing I'm going to do is take this shock apart by taking the spring and the retainers off of it. You don't have to remove these tops, the caps, but I prefer to because I need to clean this shock off, and it's easier to clean it without the spring in the way. So let's go ahead and take that apart. Real easy, in case this is your first time, you just pull up on the spring here. This little cap here will slide down, and see it has a little split in it, so that it slides right off the shock cap, or shock shaft, like so. And the spring just slides off the end. You can see all that dirt and grime there. What I like to do now is take a paper towel and wipe that grime off before I thread this down off the shock. Now using a cheap paper towel, just go and wipe down the shock body just to get the dirt and grime off. And then we just thread off the collar. Now the next step is I'm going to take some alcohol, spray it on a paper towel, wipe down the shock, clean all the dirt and grime off of it. You can see there's a lot of grime down here on the end. And that way there won't be no dirt here to contaminate the new shock oil. And now I'm going to clean both the spring retainers. And then of course the spring. This is the shock that kept leaking on me. It kept leaking right here around the cap. I think it's just a defective cap from AE because you take it off, you check it, make sure it's clean, the threads look okay, but you put it in, snug it down, and it still leak fluid around it. So like I said, I think it's just a bad cap. We will replace it with the ones I showed you at the beginning of the video from STRC. Removing the cap. Don't have to worry about spilling any oil, but just in case, have the bottom out of a soda bottle here to catch any old oil. So you can see she is bone dry. So now to fill it up full of oil, I'm using Associated 40 weight oil. Stopping, not filling it up all the way yet. I want to work the piston to make sure I get any air off underneath of it. But make sure when you push the piston up, you do not uncover it out of the oil. Otherwise you'll just be sucking more air right back down into it. Just do this a few times. Okay, now I'm going to add some more oil. There it is. Get it up to where it's just barely coming over top where it makes like a little hump. a little dome. You don't want it spilling out everywhere, but I want to make that little dome. There we go. And now we put on the new cap. I didn't really mention this before, but always make sure your O-ring is in good shape whenever you're changing your caps or changing your oil. This one is in good shape, so let's go ahead and get this screwed on. Let's go nice and slow so you don't displace a bunch of oil. And then once it's tight, let's give it a little bit of turn. You want it snug, not tight. The metal ones, it's not such a big deal, but on the plastic ones, you'll deform the caps. Sometimes with the metal ones, it can deform the O-ring. So, go ahead and tighten it down. Make sure it's nice and tight, or snug, I guess you should say. And then we're going to take a paper towel, wipe off any excess, and then cycle the piston and check for leaks. I'm not seeing any leaks yet. That's a good sign. Just keep going all the way around. There we go. Now shock is completely full. Said once again, not seeing no leaks. We're working the piston in and out. We're turning it over. So it looks like this is going to solve our leaky cap problem. Now we just got to put the ride height adjuster on, put the spring, and then the bottom spring retainer. So let's do that. Now the purpose of this little collar right here that I'm putting on is to adjust your springs, your ride height. A lot of people think it's to make the springs firmer by moving it down, but that's not really what it's for. Though your springs will get a bit firmer, that's not the point. You adjust the firmness of your shocks with the oil, or the softness of them as the case may be. This is to adjust your ride height. This determines how high or low on the shock body the spring sits. And will also affect how much droop it has down. You know, if you want it always at full extension whenever it's at rest, or like I like mine to rest about the middle, that we have up and down travel. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to put it back on. I was running these all the way at the top, so I'll work it all the way back up there. And now the spring goes on. And then finally, the retainer goes on the bottom. There we go. This shock is finished now. Just got to put it back on the truck. Installing them is just the reverse of taking them off. There we go. The shock is now reinstalled with the new shock cap. Hopefully there'll be no more leaking. I'm going to go ahead and do the other 3 shocks the same way. Remove them, drain any old oil if there's old oil in it, top them off, change the caps, put them back on. I'm going to go ahead and do that, then I'll be back to give you my final thoughts. And now we have the STRC shock caps on all 4 corners. All 4 shocks are refilled with oil. The front ones here have 35 weight oil in them, and the rears have 40 weight oil in it. It's all Team Associated silicone oil, pure silicone oil. And as you can see, it's a good looking shock cap. It matches the shock itself, the parts already on it, the collar and the body, very good. If I had to make a complaint about this shock cap, it'd be that the gunmetal isn't quite as gray as a lot of gunmetal out there, but it still looks good on the truck. And like I said, it seals good. None of these shocks are leaking. I've cycled them many, many times. So now we've taken care of that leak. Speaking of cycling, if you remember in the beginning of the video, I pushed kind of violently on the back of the truck and it shaked and bounced and everything else. Here's the advantage of putting oil in your shocks. Notice it's not really bouncing around. When I push on it, it's real slow and controlled. That's why you need oil in your shocks. So there you have it. This is my review of the STRC shock caps. They are a great addition to any rig, especially this one, because now the oil is staying inside the shock where it belongs, so it's not making a mess everywhere, and performance stays consistent. So these are definitely well worth the money. So what's next for this little truck? I think we're going to add a winch next, just because I think it needs a winch. It has a spot in the bumper for it, so let's go ahead and add one. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video or any other updates we do to this truck. And there will be plenty more coming forward, I guarantee you that. I'd like to add a set of weights in the wheels at some point. I'd like to add an interior. So like I said, we have a list of stuff we want to do. So like I said, subscribe so you don't miss any of those. And please feel free to like this video. And until next time, Happy RCing.